In Chicago, deployment dispute. President Trump threatening to send National Guard troops to the Windy City following last week's federal crime crackdown in the nation's capital.
What this president is attempting to do is not just unconstitutional, but it is very much a threat to our democracy.
We'll have more on the fight that's pitting Democratic city leaders against the president. And developing this morning, dangerous heat fueling a series of fires up and down the West Coast. That while powerful winds whip through Black Rock City at this year's Burning Man Festival. And back east, more severe storms forecast from the south to New England. We're tracking it all for you. And game, set, match. The U.S. Open is underway with Americans Taylor Fritz and Ben Shelton looking to end the men's drought for the U.S. Plus, tennis legend Venus Williams making her Grand Slam comeback alongside some of the top-ranked Americans in the world. We'll serve you all the highlights and the hype. That is coming up a little bit later this morning. Glad you could be with us. Good morning, everybody. I'm Aaron Gilchrist in for Joe and Savannah today. And we begin this hour in Baltimore, where Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador back in March, is set to check in at an ICE field office at any moment. Now, it's expected that Abrego will be taken into ICE custody after immigration authorities notified him over the weekend that he may be deported to Uganda. That's according to his attorneys. This notice came just 24 hours after he was released from federal custody and reunited with his family on Friday. Abrego became a central figure in the Trump administration's crackdown on undocumented immigrants. The administration has since accused him of human trafficking and being a gang member, charges he denies. Abrego's attorneys say he faces a crucial decision today in his fight against those charges. So let's bring in NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach. He is outside that ICE facility in Baltimore, along with, it looks like hundreds of other people here. Gary, set the scene for us this morning so far.
Hey, good morning, Aaron. In just less than an hour, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is going to have to walk up these steps right here and head up to the 6th floor to an ICE office where NBC News is told by his attorneys they do expect he will be taken into ICE custody. But for the next 55 minutes or so, this is what Kilmar Abrego Garcia is seeing. Hundreds of members of the community here in Maryland, members of his family as well. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is here with his wife and children as well. And this is the immense amount of community support that we are seeing, because folks I've talked to here, they do really feel a connection with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Yes, he came into this country illegally, and yes, he's being charged with very serious crimes, but on a very human level, they do feel for his wife, Jennifer. They do feel for him, because this may be the last time they're able to be together. Aaron.
You know, Gary, you touched on it a little bit here. A lot we know has happened in Abrego's case over the weekend. Can you catch us up on how he went from finally being reunited with his family to facing another deportation to a country where he has no ties in just 24 hours? What's the administration's reasoning here?
Shameful. So Abrego was released from federal custody on Friday, and there was a plea deal happening behind the scenes between his attorneys and folks from the Trump administration. And basically, they gave him two options. One, plead guilty to the 2 smuggling charges against him in the state of Tennessee, then serve time imposed by the judge for that sentence, and then be deported to Costa Rica, where he speaks the language, he'd be treated as a refugee, and he'd be able to walk free. The other option was not plead guilty to the Tennessee charges and be immediately deported to Uganda as soon as Wednesday, Aaron.
So, given that fact, Gary, where do we expect things to go from here at this point?
So we expect him to walk in here at 8 a.m. and then be taken into ICE custody. Because of how ICE works, we don't know what's going to happen after that. They are going to decide where the bed space exists in the ICE facility around this country. They will place him there, and then they will wait until we figure out what happens with this plea deal. We don't have a sense of what choice they're going to pick, whether it's going to be the Costa Rica route, the Uganda route, or a third option where they perhaps fight the Uganda route and try to say that is a place that he should have a withholding or removal from, just like he had from El Salvador, which is how we got into the situation in the first place. Aaron.
All right, we know you'll be watching this closely for us. Gary Grumbach in Baltimore today. Gary, thank you. We turn to Ukraine now. Russia is continuing its offensive, launching more than 100 drones in an attack on the north and east of that country overnight. Now, this comes despite a continued push from the Trump administration for peace. that has seen little progress at this point. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke to Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker about this effort and said he remains confident that the U.S. can broker an end to the war. Kristen is in Washington now with more from that interview.
Hello there, Aaron. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke exclusively to Vice President J.D. Vance about President Trump's push for a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine and whether Russian President Vladimir Putin is serious about ending the war. I had the opportunity to speak with the Russian foreign minister.
I heard.
Yes, he says, as of right now, there's no meeting planned between President Putin and President Zelensky. And he added there needs to be an agenda first, saying, quote, this agenda is not ready at all. Are the Russians stringing President Trump along?
No, not at all, Kristen. I think the Russians have made significant concessions to President Trump for the first time in 3.5 years of this conflict. They've actually been willing to be flexible on some of their core demands. They've talked about what would be necessary to end the war. Of course, they haven't been completely there yet, or the war would be over, but we're engaging in this diplomatic process in good faith. We are trying to negotiate as much as we can with both the Russians and the Ukrainians to find a middle ground to stop the killing. I think what the president has tried to do here is try to engage in very aggressive, very energetic diplomacy, because this war is not in anyone's interest. It's not in Europe or the United States' interest. We don't think it's in Russia or Ukraine's interest to keep going. So we're going to keep on pushing for a diplomatic solution. And one final point about this, Kristen, if you look historically, whenever you have a complicated war with a lot of death and destruction, it kind of goes in fits and starts. There are hills and valleys to the negotiation. We sometimes feel like we've made great progress with the Russians, and sometimes, as the president has said, he's been very frustrated with the Russians. And we're going to keep on doing what we have to do to bring this thing to a close. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think that we're going to continue to make progress, but ultimately, whether the killing stops, that determination is going to belong to whether the Russians and the Ukrainians can actually find some middle ground here.
You can see my full interview and a whole lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more at Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
Our thanks to Kristen Welker for that. And for more on this, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor now. Yamiche, good morning. What stood out to you from that interview the most?
Well, Aaron, what stood out to me is that the vice president really did outline two clear things that are holding up negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. The first being that Ukraine is essentially wanting security guarantees to prevent Russia and to ensure that Russia won't invade the country again. We should remind folks, of course, that Ukraine was not only invaded about 3.5 years ago, but also in 2014 in Crimea, which is how they got kicked out of the G8 at the time. So Ukraine is really insisting that if they do make a sort of deal with Russia, that this country will stop trying to get more territory, which is a big ask. The second thing is that there's really this stalemate when it comes to territory negotiations. The vice president's essentially hinting at the idea that Ukraine should be open to possibly conceding some land to Russia, saying that that's the way that wars usually work. Of course, the Ukrainian president has been very resistant to the idea of giving up any sort of territory, saying that the country's constitution just simply does not allow that. But President Trump has also said that he believes, quote, land swapping will be part of the negotiation that ultimately brings this war to an end, if it can be brought to an end. The other thing that was really interesting was the idea that as the vice president was talking about all of this and talking about possible sanctions or other economic issues, economic sort of consequences that Russia might be made to pay, he also said that the U.S. might do nothing. And that really also underscores this idea that President Trump is, while engaged in this war, has also said if he feels like he doesn't see enough progress, he could walk away, Aaron.
So we're all asking about the win of it all, right? Vance gave this tentative timeline of 3 to 6 months for ending the war. Based on the meetings and the negotiations that we've seen in the past few weeks here, does that timeline seem feasible in Washington?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. What you have is President Trump continuing to say that he wants to see this urgently brought to an end. After his meeting with President Putin, the sort of scuttlebutt in Washington was that there was going to be a sort of meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky within 2 weeks. That obviously, that timeline has not come to bear, and there's not really been any sort of real movement toward a 2-week timeline for them to even sit down. So I think it's very telling that while we've heard a lot of words and seen a lot of negotiations, I don't know that there's an actual timeline here. So that 3 to 6 months just doesn't seem like something that is a sort of concrete idea in Washington. Aaron.
And before I let you go, I do want to get to the latest developments on the ground, right? According to Russia's defense ministry, Russia and Ukraine exchanged prisoners of war yesterday. This is after mediation from the UAE. What can you tell us about that?
Well, this is really interesting because while this war continues to rage on, this is a sort of hint that peace could be possible. Yesterday, we saw 146 prisoners from each side, from Russia and from Ukraine, be exchanged by these two countries. Russian officials say that they're on their side, that the people that were released are getting medical care and also mental health care. On the Ukrainian side, the president of Ukraine posted pictures of people smiling, saying that there were some journalists that might also be included, and some of these people had been held all the way back since 2022. So it does show you that there is movement happening and that there are negotiations happening that actually have real consequences leading to this prisoner swap. Still, of course, the big question is, when will the actual war be over? And that, of course, is something that just simply is not clear. Aaron.
All right. Yamiche Alcindor for us in Washington. Good to see you, Yamiche. Thanks. Well, the family of one of Jeffrey Epstein's most vocal accusers is criticizing the Justice Department for not appropriately protecting his victims. It comes after the government released Ghislaine Maxwell's interview with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche on Friday. NBC's Melanie Zanona has more on the family's reaction.
The family of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, one of Epstein's most prominent survivors, blasting the DOJ for an interview with Epstein's top accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. Giuffre died by suicide in April. Her family saying the DOJ provided Maxwell a platform to, quote, rewrite history, adding, "This travesty of justice entirely invalidates the experiences of the many brave survivors who put their safety, security, and lives on the line to ensure her conviction, including our sister." The DOJ pointing to an earlier statement saying it will continue to seek transparency while protecting victims. The interview also drawing sharp criticism from Democrats.
Maxwell goes into this interview undoubtedly told by her attorney, unless you completely exonerate the president, you're going to spend most of the rest of your life in prison. So she wants a pardon. It all stinks to high heaven.
Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking. Her attorney says she's not guilty and called Senator Schiff flat out wrong. On Friday, the agency released audio and transcripts from its July interview with Maxwell.
By you meeting with us today, we're really just meeting. I'm not promising to do anything.
During the two-day sit-down, Maxwell praised Trump and distanced the president from Epstein.
I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way.
She also denied the existence of a so-called client list and rejected the DOJ's assessment that Epstein died by suicide while awaiting trial in 2019.
I do not believe he died by suicide.
The DOJ transferred Maxwell from a Florida prison to a lower security camp in Texas after her interview, which the Giuffre family says sends a disturbing message.
We're learning that a memoir from Giuffre will be published this fall. According to the publisher, she completed the book before she died and said it was her heartfelt wish that the memoir be published regardless of her circumstances. Back to you.
Melanie Zona for us in Washington there. Several U.S. cities are now pushing back after President Trump threatened to deploy the National Guard to control what he sees as out-of-control crime. That's despite statistical evidence that says the opposite. Now, this includes Chicago, where the mayor says he is taking the threats seriously and his team plans to stand firm. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster has a look.
National Guard troops will be armed while patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. A DOD official telling NBC News they're officially authorized for self-protection. It's a scene Chicago is hoping to avoid. Their mayor, Brandon Johnson, pushing back on President Trump's threat to send the National Guard to more American cities.
We don't need cities across America occupied by our military. They don't have policing powers. They don't have arresting powers.
The president also suggesting on social media, I will send in the troops to Baltimore after targeting New York and Chicago in the Oval Office Friday.
We'll go ahead and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C. Chicago is very dangerous.
According to Chicago police statistics, murders, robberies, and shootings are all down more than 30% this year. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker accusing Trump of abusing his power and saying in a statement that there is no emergency that warrants deploying the National Guard. Chicago has been a frequent focus of Trump's criticism, going back to his first term when he set hundreds of federal agents in 2020 to target violent crime.
Help is on its way.
But the latest threats come after the president mobilized D.C.'s National Guard this month and took over the California National Guard in July over the objections of state and local leaders. As Illinois leaders and the ACLU vow a swift legal response.
There's a higher barrier for the president to send National Guard into Chicago. He's going to have to articulate a reason for doing it.
Leaders here are raising constitutional states' rights concerns, suggesting a legal challenge would be filed almost immediately. It's a similar line of messaging that you're hearing from Maryland's Governor Wes Moore, who said that Trump's use of the National Guard is a scare tactic. Back to you.
Shaquille Brewster in Chicago for us. Thank you, Shaquille. This morning, the threat of extreme weather is potentially putting millions in danger, including people at the popular Burning Man festival in Nevada. Really strong wind whipped up dust and blew over tents there. At the same time, there are heat alerts in place from Washington State to Southern California this morning. Forecasters are predicting record high temperatures for the start of the week. And that heat is fueling several major wildfires out west, ripping through thousands of acres, threatening Napa Valley's famous vineyards, too. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz reports.
Fires, wind, and heat causing extreme weather conditions across the West.
Oh my God, something just picked up and blew into our RV.
In northern Nevada, this is the scene at Burning Man. Wind gusts up to more than 50 miles per hour, causing a freak dust storm, wiping out some camps and severely limiting visibility at the start of the week-long festival.
Lost the kitchen tent, came down on top of people.
Videos showing some people head to toe covered in dust and clinging to poles trying to save their tents. Traffic to get inside the makeshift Black Rock City backing up for hours, with the National Weather Service also warning of possible monsoon thunderstorms. The scary conditions reminiscent of the disastrous mudpocalypse 2 years ago, when heavy storms left tens of thousands of attendees stranded. And in California, firefighters still battling that massive blaze in Napa County, now nearly 7,000 acres. Crews using aircrafts and dozers to gain control.
It's extremely rough territory. Some of it's cliffed out.
Burning since Thursday, the Picket Fire now 11% contained and moving away from the town of Calistoga. The flames still threatening multiple homes, properties, and vineyards.
We do have some evacuation orders. We hope to get those folks home as soon as possible.
The fire, one of several across the region. In Central Oregon, the Flat Fire now exploding to more than 20,000 acres with 0% containment. Another concern out west, the heat. People remain under heat alerts from Washington to Arizona. All of it fueling those dangerous fire conditions, not expected to let up anytime soon.
Liz Kreutz reporting for us there. Let's get a closer look at our weather from coast to coast now with a check of our Morning News Now forecast. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman has more on what you can expect for the start of the week. Michelle, good morning. So many things going on right now.
That's right. Hi there, Aaron. Great to see you. And we're going to see more of the same of what Liz just showed us. We're going to see extreme heat in the northwest, parts of the southwest. We're going to see that fire threat continuing with really gusty winds, dry conditions, and also looking at that monsoonal moisture in the southwest. That will last for a few days. So those are the big weather stories on this Monday. Also looking at below average temperatures in the middle of the nation, the upper Midwest and northern plains, the Great Lakes. We're looking at temperatures in the 60s and 70s. And then notice along the coast of the East Coast, we're looking at spotty showers. So from the Carolina coast to the southeast along the Gulf Coast states, also spotty showers in parts of the Great Lakes and also New England. We have a front that sort of stretched from portions of the Great Lakes all the way back to the Central Plains, and that's going to be the trigger for some of these showers and storms. And some could be heavy, especially in the Central Plains. That will continue on Wednesday. Notice yellow showing up on the map. That's indicating where we think we're going to see heavier rain, and that's in Kansas, parts of Oklahoma. Also looking at the chance for some flooding in parts of the southwest with that monsoonal moisture continuing and still warm in the northwest. We're looking at temperatures soaring into the 80s. Into the 100s. And part of the problem is we're not getting the relief at night. We're looking at temperatures still staying put in the 70s at night. This heat should break by Thursday, so a little bit of a break for the later part of the week. And then it tastes to fall in the northeast into New England to kick off getting close to the Labor Day weekend. We're looking at temperatures in the 70s throughout Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Here is Friday. Notice a lot of green on the map. This is really kicking off the Labor Day weekend. We're looking at southeast showers, looking at heavy rain along the Gulf Coast states into the Mississippi Valley. Valley. Rainy and cool, and we're looking at stormy conditions still in parts of the Southwest into the Rockies. Still looking at that monsoonal moisture moving in. Could see some showers and storms too in New England on Friday and also parts of the Northeast. So again, the big story today, 13 million people under heat alerts. We're looking at heat advisories. Those are in the orange. Also extreme heat warnings for Portland, Medford, down to portions of Southern California. Fresno, you're under heat advisory. And again, we're going to see those temperatures soaring into the 90s and into the 100s. Fire risk does continue. We have 60 large fires burning in the west, and we're going to continue to see those conditions not great. We're looking at winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour. It's going to be really dry, too. So look at this temperature difference. The extreme heat out west, we're looking at August chill, so to speak. That should be in quotes, I think. Taste of fall, we're looking at temperatures in the 60s and 70s. 69, Aaron, today in Minneapolis. That is 11 degrees below what is typical for this time of year, and lots of low 70s on the map. So really refreshing for kids going back to school this week.
For sure. Fall's my favorite season, so I'll take the lower temperatures anytime.
Yep, me too.
Thanks, Michelle. Good to see you. Well, there is much more to come on Morning News Now. Later this hour, outbreak alert. Several people killed, dozens more sickened by a bacterial disease that spreads quickly in the summer heat. What you need to know to stay safe. But up first, another setback for SpaceX as its Starship rocket test mission is scrubbed. When we come back, more on the delay and why this launch is so important. Stay with us. We are back with yet another setback for Elon Musk and SpaceX. The company's 10th test flight for the massive rocket Starship was supposed to lift off last night from South Texas, but it was delayed roughly 30 minutes before takeoff due to an unspecified problem with its ground systems. Friend of the show and our former astronaut, NASA astronaut Mike Massimino, joining us now to help us sort of walk through what happened here. Mike, it's good to see you. He's also the author of Moonshot, a NASA astronaut's guide to achieving the impossible. Thanks for joining us today here, Mike. So Starship, we know, has been called the quote, most powerful rocket ever built. It has experienced a series of unsuccessful tests this year. What's your understanding of why this mission was delayed? Is it normal for a rocket to go through what Starship is going through in this testing phase?
Hi, Aaron. Yeah, I guess it is normal. In some ways, it's not for the pace that SpaceX drives their team at, drives the rocket testing at. You know, their motto is to fail quickly and learn quicker, and that's the way they do it. So, what's different about this is that they've had 3 setbacks in a row. So this is their 10th launch, as you mentioned. The last 3 didn't go as well as, say, number 6, 7, 8, 9. They didn't accomplish the goals they wanted to, and it kind of was a little bit, I guess that's a little setback. It was kind of like a step backwards for them. But for this one, what they were hoping to do is not only test the large rocket, see if it would be capable of deploying satellites, also landing it back in the ocean as opposed to coming back to the launch site. But the bigger piece, I think, was going to be with the Starship itself, the upper piece of it, the one that looks kind of like with little wings on it, looks like a spaceship, sort of that thing, not the rocket itself. That was going to be doing a practice landing in the ocean, similar to the way it would be doing a landing on the moon or maybe one day on Mars. So it's not a giant setback because I'm sure they're going to get right back at it and try again. But of course, you know, they would have liked to. They would like to. What they really would like a successful flight test, as opposed to a delay. The delay they had is not going to mean anything, particularly if they go tonight or in the near future. But what they really want is they would like to be successful and with their test objectives on this one, more than they want to be on time.
So let's go a little further with that if we can here. This would have been, as we said, the 10th major mission, a test here. Why is this test flight so important? What do they hope to learn here?
I think the biggest part of it is with the Starship, the upper stage there, that they were going to do a relight of the engine like they would in space, and then bring it back to Earth as if it was landing somewhere else, like the moon or Mars. And I think for me, that's the key thing, especially if you're interested in human space flight, because the Starship is what is planned to take astronauts down to the surface of the moon. So the Artemis 2 flight is the next big moon flight coming up, with people on board to orbit the moon. We haven't done that in over 50 years, so that would be really monumental. But we also haven't landed people on the moon in over 50 years. And so that's where Starship would come in the Artemis 3 flight. And until they feel confident that the Starship can do that, they're going to keep postponing that eventual moon landing that we're hoping to see in the next couple of years.
Well, you talk about postponing. I mean, Musk has also talked about Mars, obviously, before the end of next year. After last night's delay, how realistic is that goal?
Well, Aaron, you said the end of next year, so what's that? That's 2026. I got a feeling that's going to be pushed out a bit further, of course, with this happening, and that's a pretty aggressive goal. I don't doubt what SpaceX can do anymore. What they, at first, years ago, over a decade ago, when I was still with NASA and they were talking about the things they wanted to do, I was a little skeptical maybe, but they've proven that they can do things and they can do them rather quickly. So, but I think that's going to be a little rough because I think their first objective is going to be to get a demonstration that Starship can work on the moon, and then after that, I think they'll set their sights on Mars. But I think in the next year is going to be next year sometime by the end of next year. I think that's going to be a little tough.
So if we focus on the now of it all, right? We know that SpaceX has said the launch window for this mission does reopen tonight, 7:30 Eastern. One, does that tell you anything about the nature of the problem that scrubbed the launch last night? And what do you see as sort of next steps that need to be taken in order to have a successful launch tonight after this delay?
Yeah, they're pretty close to launching, Aaron. What happened last night is when they started fueling, putting the fuel, the propellant into the vehicle, they saw something they didn't like, and it's always better, especially if you see something before the rocket lights, let's stop it. And so whatever they saw during that fueling, it might have been a valve or a sensor or something saying, well, something's not right. Maybe the temperature was off a little bit. So they decided to stop. And since they are, as you said, looking to turn it around here in about 12 hours or so, not that much longer from now, just a day delay, that seems to seem, well, it's something they think they understand and something they can overcome pretty quickly. So it doesn't look like a major issue, but we'll see. They're going to give it another attempt, and hopefully they'll get off the ground, and more importantly, they'll be successful tonight with what they're trying to accomplish.
All right. Well, we know you'll be watching. We'll be watching closely, too, to see what happens tonight. One of our favorites here, Mike Messamino. We appreciate you making time for us. Thanks.
You bet, Aaron. Anytime. Thank you.
Well, coming up, beating the heat with the help of technology.
In just 5 or 10 minutes, it's going to be 2 or 3 times faster than if you were just cooling sitting in the shade.
Up next, we'll take you to a university where researchers are working on ways to protect people on these hot summer days. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. We are back with a new warning about a deadly outbreak of Legionnaire's disease. It's killed at least 6 people in New York and made more than 100 others sick. Now experts are concerned it could spread to other states. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the details.
With hotter temperatures striking cities nationwide, a deadly bacteria is on the rise.
I started feeling a little lethargic. I couldn't do basic things.
Legionnaire's disease, a severe form of pneumonia, has killed at least 6 people in New York City since late July and sickened 112 more. Nunzio Quinto says he was hospitalized for days.
I was out 5 days later and with no energy and unable to do anything.
This is the largest outbreak that the city has seen since 2015. How did it happen?
This is the time of year when, unfortunately, the type of bacteria that we are worried about, Legionella, grows very quickly.
It grows in warm water and spreads through mist containing the bacteria that people inhale. The New York City Health Department has found Legionella in 12 cooling towers, which convert warm water into cold air for large buildings.
How many more cases are we seeing today compared to, say, 20 years ago?
Yeah, so we're really seeing an alarming increase of this disease. Within the past 20 years, cases have increased tenfold in the United States.
Cities in the Northeast and Midwest are reporting more cases as older infrastructure meets hotter weather, due in part to climate change.
A lot of people and a lot of buildings that maybe didn't traditionally have air conditioning units might be putting in these cooling towers. That would make a lot more people susceptible.
People over 50, smokers, and the immunocompromised are the most vulnerable. Symptoms include cough, fever, head, and muscle aches that, if caught early, can be treated, helping save lives. Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
Well, as our climate continues to get hotter, researchers from the University of Connecticut are trying to discover how people can better protect themselves from the heat. They're studying the impacts of high temperatures on the body and testing strategies to help cool down faster. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin shows us how.
So, like, your heart rate right now is at 116.
At the Corey Stringer Institute at the University of Connecticut,
Lead scientist Douglas Casa is racing against climate change to help folks stay safe in the summer heat.
Every single day, there are people dying because they don't have the proper strategies to do their job or sport in the heat.
Do more people die of the heat than the cold?
Without question. All the kind of natural things, hurricanes even, combine them all together, the number of deaths doesn't come close to the heat.
This is one of the sensors.
In his lab, his team loads me up with sensors, testing my sweat rate, core temp, and heart rate before sending me into the heat chamber, where temps can soar to 120 degrees with up to 90% humidity.
You want to get it going?
So right now this chamber is 99 degrees.
Correct.
And what percent humidity?
So right now it's probably around 40 to 50% humidity.
So this is a typical day in the South. But if we're working in these conditions, it's dangerous.
It could be very dangerous. It could happen in 3, 4, 5 minutes. It could go from feeling okay to not feeling well at all.
In just minutes of walking in those extreme conditions.
I mean, I'm definitely starting to feel it.
Yes, and that was just only 5 to 10 minutes.
And this isn't even a really hot summer day.
Yes.
It's not just the scorching temp, it's the humidity.
So I'm sweating. It's humid in here, but my sweat is not helping cool me down.
So some of it evaporates. It just doesn't evaporate as efficiently, as that's what removes heat from your body.
So when it's humid out, what extra things should folks have in mind?
You need more breaks. They need to be longer. You benefit more from the cold, wet fluid on your body.
As soon as we're out of the chamber, Casa shows us his science-backed strategies to cool down.
An example would be like a cooling towel like this.
And something as simple as that could bring down my temperature 1 degree?
So, yeah.
For an even greater impact, a cooling truck seen at events and along the sidelines nationwide.
In just 5 or 10 minutes, it's going to be 2 or 3 times faster than if you were just cooling sitting in the shade.
Casa says these strategies save lives, especially for anyone who works outside.
Laborers are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s doing 12-hour shifts in the heat. They're by far the group that we need to protect.
Our world is changing.
It is, yeah. So there's no question about it. Everything is revolving around how will people do their jobs, their sport, and even live their life in the heat.
Erin McLaughlin, NBC News, Stores, Connecticut.
Well, coming up, a new kind of team on the rise in the sports world. Beauty brands partnering with the WNBA for major marketing deals. More on the multi-billion-dollar trend. And tennis superstar Venus Williams back on the court for the U.S. Open. More on her Grand Slam comeback next on Morning News Now. We are back now with a new marketing duo in the sports world, beauty brands and the WNBA. As the Women's Basketball League continues to rise in popularity, more beauty companies are partnering up with teams to turn fans into customers. Most recently, Rihanna's multi-billion-dollar brand Fenty Beauty partnered with the New York Liberty. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park chatted with the team about their new venture.
WNBA players are so much more than the jerseys that we put on.
The WNBA's popularity is skyrocketing and major brands capitalizing, investing in the league at unprecedented levels, hoping to attract an untapped market of consumers, and leading the charge, beauty companies.
I've been having such an increase of growth with the women following because of the beauty side of things.
Isabel Izzy Harrison is a power forward with the New York Liberty, with hundreds of thousands of followers both on and off the court.
This looks so pretty. This looks so pretty. As our game has grown, we've just gotten so many more supporters from different areas and different companies. So I'm not just a basketball player. I'm a beauty girl. I'm a health girl. I'm a girl's girl. Like, there's just so many companies that represent that.
Companies like Fenty Beauty.
Hey, Riri girl.
In May, Rihanna's multi-billion-dollar brand signed its first sports deal as the official beauty partner of the New York Liberty. The singer and entrepreneur writing in part, "The women of the New York Liberty exemplify such beauty, power, and strength." The team's mascot, Ellie, with her own massive social media following, even getting into the mix.
The WNBA is such a cultural force right now. How is Fenty Beauty part of the larger conversation?
It's really encouraging to see that both sports and beauty are pushing past the traditional stereotype. There's not one monolithic view of what a female athlete looks like, and there's not one monolithic view of what beauty and beautiful looks like.
Other iconic beauty brands making power plays too. CoverGirl, the official sponsor of the Chicago Sky, and Sephora, partnering with the W's newest expansion team.
The Golden State Valkyries are locked in.
we've got our game face on.
Rising stars are also getting in the game. Angel Reese, the 7th overall draft pick last year, spotlighting Shea Moisture as a partner and brand ambassador.
I had head-to-toe protection and all-day confidence.
And Sabrina Ionescu, a New York Liberty point guard, is one of the faces behind a Milani Cosmetics campaign.
From the first whistle to the final buzzer.
These deals helping to fill the wide gap increasingly in the spotlight between the NBA and WNBA in terms of players' salaries and revenue sharing agreements. That means finding bold, creative ways to bring more fans into the game.
We want to see those beautiful faces on the big screen. So let's get it, Liberty family.
Forget the Kiss Cam, the Gloss Bomb Cam puts fans on the Jumbotron so they can show off their custom Liberty Fenty lip gloss, which I tried out for myself.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. It's minty.
Little tingle.
I like it.
Yes.
I need the Gloss Bomb Cam on me now.
Yes, you need the Gloss Bomb Cam. I love it.
This is our moment. Visibility and awareness. And we're not just talking about the people who are in the arena. We're talking about people who watch on television, people who want to wear the merchandise on their back. It only makes sense that we would also have partnerships that reflect who we are at this moment in time.
It just shows that you can invest and you can show that we hold value and we're always going to make return on our value.
Beauty and basketball teaming up to be the new power duo in marketing. Kathy Park, NBC News, New York.
All right, time now for some financial headlines. Homeowners are feeling the squeeze as insurance keeps getting more expensive. CNBC's Silvana Henao has that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, good Monday morning to you. Yes, so home insurance costs, well, these are a growing financial burden for many Americans. A new report from Bankrate finds the average cost has gone up more than 9% since 2023, outpacing the overall pace of inflation. Now, the average annual premium now stands at $2,470, or more than 3% of the median household income. Homeowners in Louisiana spend the highest percentage of their income on insurance, followed by Nebraska and Florida. The least expensive states, those are Vermont, New Hampshire, and Alaska. Spotify plans to raise prices further as it invests in new features and targets 1 billion users worldwide. The president of the streaming service telling the Financial Times the price increases, these are part of the toolbox now after years of keeping them flat. Now, Spotify only started raising prices 2 years ago, and it's been working on a new tier that could cost an extra $6 a month, and that's aimed at music superfans. And Waymo gets a permit to start testing its robotaxi service in New York City with a safety driver behind the wheel. Mayor Eric Adams announcing Friday Waymo, which is owned by Alphabet, can begin tests in parts of Manhattan and Brooklyn. Now, Waymo has ramped up efforts across the U.S., completing more than 10 million rides in San Francisco, Phoenix, Austin, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. I don't know. I'm still pretty terrified of a.
I'm with you.
Self-driver. Yeah.
It's just weird to see them coming around the corner empty like
Yeah.
that. All right. Silvana Henao, thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Well, here in New York, the U.S. Open is back. First round matchups already underway, with the biggest names in tennis taking the spotlight on the famous hard courts of Queens. And later today, it will be a historic comeback for one of the world's biggest tennis stars, Venus Williams, set to make her first Grand Slam appearance in 2 years. NBC News correspondent Maya Eaglin has more.
The U.S. Open is officially kicking off. Record-breaking crowds pouring into New York from all over the world.
It's great. It's so energetic. Everyone's like such a good vibes.
Yes, I'm so happy Venus came back. That's so great.
All eyes are on tennis royalty Venus Williams, set to return to Grand Slam tennis Monday after 2 years.
Yeah, super thrilling to be back. It does not get old. It just gets more exciting.
The 45-year-old getting a wild card invitation to play. It's the first time in 44 years someone her age has competed in women's singles at the U.S. Open.
I think I'll always play tennis. It's in my DNA, so it doesn't matter if it's now or 30 years from now.
Venus' sister Serena Williams also making headlines this weekend with a surprise appearance at her once rivals Maria Sharapova's induction into the Tennis Hall of Fame.
I know I'm probably the last person you would be expecting to see here tonight.
Also coming back to the court this year, electronic line judges, cameras replacing humans to call certain plays, and more tech.
And for the first time ever, U.S. Open fans can use AI tools in the app to see predicted winners or ask specific questions.
They can ask everything from, even to the pronunciation of player names or some about their bio, all different types of statistics.
Maya Eaglin reporting there. We thank her for that. Excitement is already building this morning for Venus. We know that. She is set to take on Karolina Muchova tonight in her first-round matchup. And Venus says she wants to have fun, to stay relaxed, and to give it her best shot. For more on this year's U.S. Open, I'm excited to be joined by Hall of Fame tennis coach Rick Macci. Rick, good to have you with us this morning. Appreciate you being here. Let's start with the legendary Venus Williams here. How has she fought her way back to this stage in the game? What are the expectations you have for her tonight?
Well, good to be with you, Aaron, but let's back the truck up to 1994 when I took this little girl from Compton to make her debut, and she shocked the world. Beat number 58 and almost beat number 1. Everybody knew there was greatness baking in that Compton oven. So here we are, 31 years later, and VW still has a smile, she still has the passion, and I guarantee there'll be 22,000 people rooting for the Compton Rocket because they're all in her back pocket.
The Compton Rocket. I like that. We're going to keep that one alive, keep that one going. Rick, listen, we know there's a ton of American star power at this year's Open. On the women's side, there are 4 Americans in the top 10 world rankings now. That includes Amanda Anisimova after her appearance in the Wimbledon finals. Talk to us about that. Can she bounce back from that? What do you expect from other top women this year?
Well, first off, Anisimova is the real deal. Firepower off both sides, great ground strokes, big confidence from doing well at Wimbledon. Don't count her out. She's 8 in the world now, and she has a shot to win it all. But the talk of the tournament is really Coco Gauff, the #1 American, the Olympic sprinter with a racket in her hand. Her backbone is better than her backhand. But listen, she's hit 320 double faults this year. And the serve has been an issue. She hired a biomechanist to come in right before the Open to put Humpty Dumpty back together. And from what I'm seeing on video, it's already working. So she corrects the serve issue because she's playing the long game. I talk to her dad all the time. This girl can get to #1, but more importantly, stay there.
She so knows how to do it, right? She clearly is a champion, has that attitude, and will fix all the things that need to be fixed. I want to ask you on the men's side, Taylor Fritz, Ben Shelton, they've both punched their ticket into the second round already. They're coming off of strong Wimbledon performances at the same time. What's your thinking there? Do you think they can keep up the momentum on home turf?
Absolutely. Both are the real deal. Shelton, the Florida Gator with the serve that says see you later. And remember, Fritz got to the finals last year. But all that being said, all roads at a Grand Slam go through Alcaraz and Sinner. The last 7, those 2 have met in the finals, okay? And they're the favorites. They're just a cut above. When you play 3 out of 5, it becomes a mental battle. But you never know what's going to happen. But I got to bring up the Serbian sniper, the rubber band man, Novak Djokovic, okay? He's won 100 titles, 24 Grand Slams in the back pocket, okay? He's won 1,151 matches in his career, and he's the GOAT because it's from ear to ear. So keep an eye on Djokovic. If he stays healthy, he has a shot.
Let me ask you about playing in New York, the U.S. Open. I mean, I got to see it a couple of years ago. How do you explain it when people say, what is it about this tournament and that stadium, the Arthur Ashe Stadium, and what makes it so special and electric?
First off, great question. It's the crowd. Greatness loves to be motivated. They can take you to new heights, okay? You become a Broadway performer on a tennis court, and the crowd just gets you to focus on the competition. They're louder than ever. They play late into the night. Everybody says U.S. Open is their favorite tournament.
I'll put you on the spot before we let you go in just a couple of seconds here. Give me your finals matchups, men and women.
Alcaraz and Sinner with the men, Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek. For the women, Iga's been on fire. She has a lot of desire, and she's ready to go higher.
All right, we heard it here first. We will see how it all shakes out. Rick Macy, we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
All right, thanks, Aaron.
Well, coming up, just 6 numbers standing between you and $750 million. The big Powerball drawing is set for tonight with a history-making jackpot up for grabs. We will show you some of the excitement next on Morning News Now. We are back now with the stuff that dreams are made of. The 10th largest Powerball jackpot up for grabs tonight with a whopping $750 million grand prize. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda is at a convenience store in Jersey City, New Jersey, with all of the other dreamers out there who are trying to get rich. Em, good morning to you. So what's it been like out there this morning? Can you feel the lotto fever?
Oh, the lotto fever, Aaron, is running high. I mean, did you play? I am among the people lining up in this convenience store to play the lottery with an eye-popping number on the line, $750 million we're talking about in tonight's drawing. If someone does win, they'll be able to opt either between annual payments over 29 years or a lump sum of around $340 million. And so all it takes, a mere $2. My buddy Sam here is going to help me out. I'm going to do a quick pick ticket, because, you know, of course, I have to lean into the assignment, right? Sam here, thank you so much. I'm hoping this is a lucky ticket, right? Because he has sold a $250,000 ticket at this store before, so we're hoping that some of that luck is still around in this area. It was just last year, remember, that there was a $1 billion prize sold in New Jersey playing the Mega Millions, Aaron.
That's a good point. You go back where you know they've got a track record for this sort of thing. I do want to, this is a record-setting jackpot, I know. I feel like...
Yeah.
We said that recently, or there was something around the same size. Help us understand about past mega lotteries.
Yeah, okay, so at $750 million, it is one in the top 10 largest jackpots in Powerball history. If you look at your screen, you can see California has seen some of the most success, including scoring the $2 billion prize a couple of years ago. So, but it has ranged in a number of different states. We'll see where the $750 million lands. Now, if no one wins tonight's drawing, remember that jackpot continues to go up. It goes up. It goes up. So it has a chance of increasing in the ranks as well, Aaron.
Yeah, I've been watching that. I'm not normally a lottery player, but these last couple of weeks, I've had to buy some tickets because it keeps going up and up and up and getting bigger. At the same time, we know the odds are maybe not necessarily in our favor. What is it, 1 in 292 million? But I know you've been looking at what that kind of money will buy you. What can a person afford if they win?
Yeah, so to put this in perspective, 1 in 292 million, well, you have a better chance of scoring 2 hole-in-ones in a single round of golf. But, you know, as the saying goes, you will miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So this is me taking my shot. And the best part about playing the lottery is thinking about how could I spend hundreds of millions of dollars? Well, maybe you could get a sports car or, oh, you know, more than 1,400 sports cars. You could also build out the real estate if you want to soak in these final few weeks of summer and buy more than 140 beach houses at the Jersey Shore. If you're feeling like you have a generous spirit, you could also buy nearly 110 million lunches as all these kids head back to school, Aaron.
Or a combination of those things. Spread it out a little bit. See what you can do all across the board, right? I know that you sort of have a better chance to win some of the smaller prizes, right?
Yeah, so even if you don't win that $750 million prize, you have a greater chance of winning some smaller prizes. Over the weekend, for instance, 2 people brought home $1 million in Maine and in New York. You also have a 1 in 38 chance of winning a prize at all. Now, that's more like $4, so we're talking a whole lot less money, but it's just fun to win, period. Aaron?
Exactly. A win is a win, right? We'll take it. Emily Ikeda for us in New Jersey. Thanks, Em. Well, that does it for this hour of Morning News Now, and the news continues right now. And good morning, everybody. I'm Aaron Gilchrist. Joe and Savannah are on assignment this morning. And right now on Morning News Now, summer scorcher. Triple-digit temps and high wind raising the wildfire risk in the west today. Gusty wind sending this massive dust storm ripping through Burning Man, blocking out the sun there. We'll also tell you which parts of the country are bracing for storms today in our forecast. Plus, sending in the troops. President Trump's crackdown on crime now taking aim at the Windy City.
When we're ready, we'll go in and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C. Chicago is very dangerous.
We'll tell you which cities the president is threatening to send the National Guard to next and how long the federal takeover could last. Also this morning, outrage over Epstein, the family of one of his victims speaking out as the Justice Department shares audio from a closed-door interview with accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. What we're learning as Democrats claim there isn't anything new in the thousands of files released by the DOJ. And finally, serving up success. 25 American women heading to this year's U.S. Open, getting underway right here in New York City. Later this hour, a look at the U.S. hopefuls and also the men who want to end a decades-long Grand Slam drought. We are going to start this hour with the extreme weather sweeping across the country. Here in the Northeast, people are still feeling the effects of Hurricane Erin. It caused widespread flooding and strong currents and riptides off the coast. Meanwhile, record-setting high temperatures and powerful wind fueling several fast-moving wildfires, like this one, which is threatening homes and several vineyards in California's Napa Valley. And in the Southwest, temperatures will be well above average, pushing into the upper 90s with heat indices in the triple digits. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson is in Houston for us this morning and has the latest.
Oh, hey there. Good morning. As you can see, folks here in Houston are up early, getting those workouts in before the sun comes out and the temperatures heat up here. And it's expected to be far worse out west, where they are dealing with scorching temperatures and fires.
This morning, millions waking up to extreme late summer weather. Heat, fires, and even a dust storm hitting the west, with oppressive temps in parts of California and Oregon.
Away they go!
Where a 200-mile trail race that started on Mount Hood ended with runners battling oppressive heat at the normally cool coast.
The weather was super intense, but we all made it through.
And firefighters in Oregon still battling more than 20,000 acres of raging fires with 0% containment. Heat and bone-dry conditions also fueling wildfires in California.
It just seems suddenly that they were right over our house and we're right in the flight path.
Forcing evacuations in Napa County, the heart of wine country.
A lot of that heavier brush has been replaced by lighter fuels like grass, which are easier to control.
Oh my God, something just picked up and blew into our RV. Oh my God.
In northern Nevada, the week-long Burning Man Festival
Holy
began with a freak dust storm. Western fires and heat causing wind gusts up to more than 50 miles per hour, wiping out some camps and severely limiting visibility. Some campers covered head to toe in dust. On the East Coast, cleanup continues after Hurricane Erin, which left eroded beaches and waterlogged roads in Delaware. Off the coast of Maryland and Virginia, the famous wild horses are back on the beach, but some are still navigating the floodwaters, like this mother and her foal. And surfers are taking advantage of the hurricane's remaining massive waves, but dangerous rip currents are still a hazard following Erin's exit over the Atlantic Ocean.
And sadly, this morning, New Hampshire State Police are investigating the death of a 17-year-old who witnesses say drowned yesterday after being pulled away from the shore by a strong ocean current. A reminder to stay cautious.
Priscilla Thompson reporting for us there. We are tracking the latest on what's next for those dangerous conditions. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman has your morning news now weather. Michelle, good morning. Bring us up to speed.
Good morning, Aaron. Yeah, we're looking at more of the same. Unfortunately, the heat does continue, especially in the northwest, parts of the southwest. We're looking at temperatures soaring into the 90s, into the 100s with little relief at night. Also looking at monsoonal moisture. We're looking at the chance for some more dust storms, especially in southwestern Arizona. And also the fire risk does continue. So 13 million Americans in the west impacted by heat alerts. We have heat advisories. That's where you see that orange color. Extreme heat warnings, that's in the hot pink color. Portland, Medford, again, temperatures are going to soar well above average for this time of year. They're going to end up 5, even 25 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. That heat, along with dry conditions, really gusty winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour, will fan the fuel for fires and also the 60 large fires that are already burning. So we do have red flag warnings for Mount Rainier, Bend, Paisley, where you see that red color. That's where we're looking at those fire alerts. A taste of fall, though, for some. So we have the extreme heat in the west, and then as we look towards the middle of the country to the eastern part of the country, we are looking at temperatures into the 60s in some spots. They're waking up to the 50s, and we are looking at highs into the 70s, so well below normal for this time of year. And notice that taste of fall extends all the way to the Central Plains. So 69 today in Minneapolis, that's 11 degrees below what is typical for this time of year. 74 in Oklahoma City, that's going to feel nice. And we're looking at 70s in St. Louis, Cincinnati, 80s in Nashville, 85 in Birmingham. We're going to continue that tomorrow. The taste of fall does extend to the northeast. So now Philadelphia just 79 degrees tomorrow, 69 tomorrow in Buffalo. And then we're going to remain below average for the rest of the week. And then getting near that Labor Day weekend, it still will be on the cooler side with temperatures in the low 70s on Thursday, right around 80 in New York City. But we are looking at showers and storms out west. We're looking at some heavy rainfall. We could see some flooding rains throughout portions of Oklahoma and also Kansas. We're seeing that right now with some heavier downpours. That's where you're seeing those darker colors, and also looking at the lightning. So, Aaron, we do have flood alerts out west. We have that monsoonal moisture and that moisture moving in, and we can see a lot of rain in a short amount of time. So through Wednesday, we're going to continue to watch this. Back to you.
Pretty dangerous in those really dry places out west. Michelle, thank you. Well, the Trump administration is eyeing an expansion of its crackdown on crime and illegal immigration across the country. President Trump now threatening to send troops like the ones he deployed to Washington, D.C. earlier this month to more cities. Meanwhile, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man the Justice Department initially said was mistakenly deported, faces a pivotal decision after turning himself in to ICE custody this morning. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now from outside the White House with the latest on this. Gabe, good to see you. Good morning.
Hi there, Aaron. Good morning. It is shaping up to be another major test of presidential powers. President Trump has less ability to take over domestic law enforcement in cities other than Washington, D.C., but his administration is making it clear that it plans to take on Democratic mayors and governors nationwide. Also this morning, a senior White House official tells NBC News that the president plans to sign an executive order aimed at eliminating cashless bail in D.C.
Overnight, National Guard troops armed while patrolling the streets of Washington. A defense official telling NBC News they're officially authorized for self-protection. At least 6 Republican-led states are also sending in their own troops as reinforcements. President Trump now promising to expand his crackdown on crime beyond the nation's capital to other cities, including New York, Baltimore, and Chicago.
When we're ready, we'll go ahead and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C. Chicago is very dangerous.
Violent crime in Chicago has often drawn headlines, but according to the city's police statistics, murders, robberies, and shootings are all down more than 30% this year.
The brave men and women who signed up to serve our country did not sign up to occupy American cities.
And now the president's focus may be turning to a D.C. neighbor after Maryland Governor Wes Moore, a Democrat, last week invited Trump to Baltimore.
Donald Trump, if you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth.
The president on Sunday posting, "If Wes Moore needs help, I will send in the troops."
He seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics.
Also in Maryland this weekend, a flashpoint in the Trump administration's immigration battle. The case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was reunited with his family in the state this weekend after being released from federal custody. The Justice Department initially acknowledged he was mistakenly deported to El Salvador in March, though the administration has since accused him of human smuggling and being a gang member, charges he denies.
He is absolutely going to be deported from this country.
Today, according to his attorneys, Abrego Garcia must either plead guilty to the charges and be deported to Costa Rica or decline the plea deal and be deported to Uganda as early as Wednesday.
It is preposterous that they would send him to Africa.
And right now, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is turning himself into an ICE field office in Baltimore. Less than 24 hours after being released from criminal custody in Tennessee Friday, he was told he needed to check in with ICE this morning. As you just heard, President Trump's border czar says that he expects Abrego Garcia will be deported. Aaron?
All right, Gabe Gutierrez for us at the White House. Gabe, thank you. The family of one of Jeffrey Epstein's highest-profile accusers is speaking out this morning after the Justice Department released transcripts and audio from an interview with his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. The family of Virginia Giuffre blasting the DOJ's move, saying it gives Maxwell, a convicted sex offender, quote, a platform to rewrite history. NBC News senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson has more. Hallie?
Hey there. Some Epstein accusers had no heads up that transcript was going to be released, according to their lawyer, who called Ghislaine Maxwell's interview a carefully scripted dance more than an interrogation, suggesting it's a down payment on her pardon. And the family of Virginia Giuffre, one of the most prominent Epstein accusers, sounds furious about these newest developments.
New fallout this morning for the Trump White House over the Jeffrey Epstein case after the Justice Department released transcripts and audio of its closed-door interview last month with Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. The family of one of Epstein's most prominent accusers now outraged, they say, by the DOJ's decision to speak with a convicted sex trafficker who's serving a 20-year sentence. The relatives of Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide in April, arguing the interview has given Maxwell a platform to rewrite history, calling it a travesty of justice that entirely invalidates the experiences of many brave survivors. Some Democrats argue Maxwell is not credible.
She wants a pardon. She says exactly what her lawyers tell her is going to be necessary to get a pardon. No one should be surprised here.
Maxwell's attorney calling the congressman flat out wrong. Her interview last month conducted by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, President Trump's former personal lawyer.
By you meeting with us today, we're really just meeting. I'm not promising to do anything.
Maxwell repeatedly denying she'd ever seen President Trump engage in anything inappropriate.
I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
Epstein died by suicide in prison in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges during the president's first term. The Justice Department has reaffirmed Epstein was not murdered, though Maxwell said she thinks otherwise. And threw cold water on speculation her former boyfriend maintained a client list. All of it following the DOJ's release of more than 30,000 pages of documents related to Epstein, following a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee, even as top Democrats say the vast majority of the material is already public. The president asked about the files' release Friday.
I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be.
A DOJ spokesperson says the department will continue to work closely with Congress in the interest of transparency while protecting victims of heinous crimes. Separately, we're also learning about the release of Virginia Giuffre's memoir, set to be released posthumously later this fall. Her publisher says Giuffre called it her heartfelt wish that her words be heard. Back to you.
Hallie Jackson in Washington, thank you. The family of Lyle and Eric Menendez has vowed not to give up the fight for their freedom. Last week, a California parole board denied release for both Menendez brothers, despite a judge earlier this year reducing their sentences for the 1989 murder of their parents. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joining us now from Los Angeles with the latest on this. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, good morning. Yeah, after a second lengthy hearing, the California Parole Board denied parole for Lyle Menendez on Friday, a day after making that same decision about his brother. And at one point, Friday's hearing got contentious and took a dramatic pause after audio was released to the public from Eric's hearing. The brother's attorney now slamming the state corrections department for failing to follow its own rules.
This morning, the Menendez brothers vowing to keep fighting for freedom after Eric and Lyle were both denied parole, for now leaving them behind bars for the 1989 murders of their parents, Jose and Kitty, in their Beverly Hills home. After an 11-hour hearing Friday, a parole board telling Lyle that, like his brother, he also poses an unreasonable risk to the public. The board questioning Lyle about his history with lying after the murders.
And you were trying to lead them away from you and your brother in another direction. Right?
I was certainly trying to lead them away from my brother and I.
Lyle telling the commissioners through tears, I will never be able to make up for the harm and grief I caused everyone in my family. I will be forever sorry. Lyle's attorney also touting his prison record with no violent infractions, but the board hammering him on his frequent use of contraband cell phones. Ultimately telling Lyle he still struggles with deception, minimization, and rule breaking, and that incarcerated people who break rules are more likely to break rules in society.
They didn't get a fair shake.
The brothers' attorney, Mark Garrigus, calling the hearings rigged, in part because of audio from Eric's hearing that was released to the public in the middle of Lyle's hearing, prompting a dramatic pause in proceedings.
The irony of all of this is you've got people, the commissioner, who's cross-examining Lyle on cell phone use. You violated the rules with cell phones. But by the way, don't look over here. The California Department of Corrections is violating the rules left, right, and sideways while you're doing your hearings.
The California Corrections Department saying the audio was erroneously released through a public records request. Following the hearings, the Menendez family saying, while we're of course disappointed, we are not discouraged.
This is not a long time. They are going to get out. I do want to always remind people that a couple of years ago, this was not even a possibility.
So, Liz, what comes next for the brothers here? Are there other paths they can take at this point?
Yeah, Aaron, there are. And first, we should say that their attorney has now indicated the release of that audio may be grounds to challenge the parole denials in court. So we'll wait to see what happens there. But beyond that, the brothers are still fighting for a new trial. The governor could also grant clemency. And it's likely we're going to see the brothers back in front of a parole board again soon. The board says they'll be eligible for parole in 3 years. But with good behavior, it could be in just 18 months. Aaron. All
right, Liz Kreutz for us in L.A. this morning. Thank you, Liz. Well, it's only Monday, but millions of Americans are counting down to the Labor Day weekend. For a lot of folks, it's one last chance for a summer vacation, and that's leading multiple major airports and airlines to once again brace for a record travel surge. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is live at Chicago O'Hare International with the latest on that. Hey, Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, good morning. Yeah, from O'Hare, which is, of course, a major hub for United, one of several airlines and airports across the country kind of sounding alarms, excited alarms, but still alarms about this anticipated record holiday rush. This as new data reveals good news for travelers looking to save on that next trip. With summer's last hurrah on the horizon, this morning, a record number of Americans have a Labor Day vacation in their sights.
I'm anticipating traffic for sure.
United Airlines anticipating more than 3 million passengers this holiday weekend, nearly 250,000 more than last year. American Airlines bracing for nearly 4 million travelers across more than 36,000 flights, its largest ever Labor Day weekend operation. Major airports across the U.S. also expecting record Labor Day traffic.
We do anticipate that this Labor Day is busy like we've seen in years past. The most searched cities are New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, even Las Vegas tops the list.
It caps off a record season, with the FAA clocking more than 5 million flights since Memorial Day, making 2025 the busiest summer in over a decade. This as the TSA rolls out major changes, including faster, family-friendly security lanes at some major airports, and of course, phasing out the shoes-off policy at security checkpoints.
Yeah, on our way here, I took my shoes off and then realized I didn't have to.
It's definitely hastened up the process.
You're all set, Elizabeth. Have a good trip.
And in Atlanta, there's also a new experimental facial recognition program by the company Clear called eGates. That program plans to expand soon to help speed up passenger identification.
Super fast, super easy.
All this as the cost of your summer vacation falls, with domestic round-trip flights 6% cheaper compared to last year, averaging $720 per ticket, according to AAA. Hotel rates this morning 11% cheaper, and the cost of renting a car down too. For road trippers, there's more good news. Gas prices remain low, matching the summer average from 2021.
We are anticipating that the lower gas prices we've seen most of the summer are going to hold, which is great because a lot of people do tend to opt for a long weekend road trip over Labor Day weekend.
So, Maggie, you talked about money there a little bit. For folks who are looking to save on travel, what can you tell us about how to find those cheapest flights this weekend?
Yeah, Aaron, we always love those tips, don't we? This one in particular was interesting. Experts said if you're able, if you can, and you haven't booked yet, they say think about flying Saturday to Tuesday over the Labor Day weekend as opposed to Friday to Monday. Like if you're going to take a day off work, do Tuesday instead of Friday, because they say Saturday to Tuesday will be cheaper. And they always, of course, recommend booking those early morning flights. Those will have the best chance of getting out on time. Similar advice for those driving. They say hitting the road early can help you avoid that holiday traffic. Aaron.
Some smart tips there for sure. Maggie Vespa, thank you. Well, much more to come on Morning News Now. Later this hour, we're going to take a look at the rising trend of little treat culture as Americans shift spending habits amid growing economic uncertainty. First, though, death and desperation. More bodies recovered from aid distribution sites after famine is declared in Gaza as Israel presses on with plans to seize Gaza City. We'll have the latest on new reports of multiple journalists killed by Israeli airstrikes this morning. That's next. We're back now with the latest in the escalating violence in the Middle East. This morning, an Israeli airstrike hit the main hospital in southern Gaza, killing at least 15 people, including several journalists, according to health officials. For more, let's bring in NBC News international correspondent Molly Hunter, who's in Jerusalem, with the latest on this. So, Molly, let's start with the attack on that hospital, if we can. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Aaron, I'll walk you through what we know, and this is a fast-moving story, and I actually have an update already to the numbers that you just gave. We now know at least 20 people were killed in this pair of attacks, including 5 journalists. But it happened around 10 a.m., local time. The first Israeli drone strike hit the side of Nasser Hospital. Aaron, as you mentioned, it is the biggest, only functioning hospital in the south. But it hit a staircase, and this is important, Aaron, because this staircase was where journalists, since the early days of the war, have gathered to get Wi-Fi signals. So as journalists have also been displaced, as well as kind of average Palestinian citizens in Gaza, they have flocked to hospitals to use not only kind of the connection, the power, the water, the resources available there. So this staircase in particular, though, Aaron, is someplace that we've seen on social media of journalists waving their phones in the sky, kind of trying to get signal, huddled late night over their laptops, trying to get the images from Gaza out to the rest of the world. Well, minutes after the first Israeli drone strike, as first responders were racing up to that area, as other journalists were going to cover the event, another Israeli drone strike hit the exact same spot. Now, at least 20 people, as I mentioned, including 5 journalists. Aaron, I'm just going to share with you their names. It was Hossam Al-Masri, who worked with Reuters, Miriam Abu Daqqa, who worked for the AP, Mohammed Salama, who worked with Al Jazeera, Moaz Abu Taha, and Ahmed Abu Aziz. Just for some context for our audience, 245 journalists have died since October 7th. These are our peers, our colleagues, people who've been working tirelessly, Aaron, for the last 22 months to cover what's been happening in Gaza.
Trying to make a record of history and shed some light on exactly what's happening on the ground there. We appreciate the sacrifice that they made. Molly, as it relates to these journalists, has the Israeli military responded at this point?
They have, a couple hours later, a very, very short statement, just a couple of lines. They have confirmed that there was an Israeli strike in the area of Nasser Hospital. They've also said that they have launched an immediate inquiry. You see that full statement up on your screen, and we will be pressing them for more answers, Aaron.
Molly, I also want to ask you about this UN-backed report that found that parts of Gaza are officially experiencing a man-made famine. What does that mean, and what are the recommendations coming out of this report?
Yeah, Aaron, this was Friday's report from the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, known as the IPC, and they have raised their food insecurity status to level 5. That is the most severe, that is the highest. And humanitarian groups, including the UN, have been warning about this for months. Now, the report said the famine is entirely man-made and it can be halted and reversed. And its recommendations are as follows: that an at-scale response is necessary immediately to avoid famine-related deaths from spreading even wider, a ceasefire, and unimpeded humanitarian aid. Aaron, the prediction that really caught me off guard, having gone through this report and having listened to humanitarian organizations warn about this for months, is it says between mid-August and the end of September, famine will now expand to other parts in Deir al-Balah and Khan Yunis. Take a listen, though, to what UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram said from Gaza.
We've been warning about this for more than a year now. We've been warning that food is in short supply, water is in short supply, and children are starving and dying as a result. This report that was released this week confirms these fears, and it is a call to action for the world. It's a reminder that we've already failed so many children in Gaza, but that it's not too late for us to act, to save the thousands of children who are malnourished and urgently need our help.
two things, Aaron. It is a call to action that the U.S. and the White House has largely ignored. We have not heard an official response from the White House, though I know our colleagues in D.C. are working on that. And the second thing that she says is that it can be reversed by action immediately. Interestingly, over the weekend, the only response we did get from a U.S. official was the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, posted on X. He said that Hamas is getting fat, and he put the word famine, Aaron, in quote marks.
Before I let you go, Molly, one more question. I know several U.S. officials, the top U.S. envoy Thomas Barrack, Senator Lindsey Graham, they're in the region now. What do we know about their visit?
We know very little, actually. A lot of what we're learning is from local media. So the Jerusalem Post reported that Tom Barrack, as you mentioned, the top U.S. envoy, met with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, specifically about Lebanon and Syria. As you mentioned, they're now headed to Beirut today, apparently with Senator Lindsey Graham on the table today. Apparently will be disarming Hezbollah. But again, this is all from local media here, Aaron, and we're working to get our own reporting on that.
All right, we will follow your reporting on that. Molly Hunter for us in Jerusalem. Molly, thank you. Well, postal services around the globe are halting shipments to the U.S. this week as confusion grows over new import tariffs. The change comes after President Trump signed an executive order last month ending the de minimis trade rule, which allowed goods under $800 to come in duty-free. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is joining us now with more on this. A lot to follow here. Brian, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, well, these are import duties that will now be applied to parcels that are shipped into the U.S. starting this Friday. And the end of the de minimis exemption has raised concerns about backlogs now that many global mail services are being put on hold until the U.S. clarifies its custom procedures. This morning, global mail carriers suspending deliveries to the U.S. amid confusion over new import duties.
I won't be able to send you anything. Hopefully we can get this kind of figured out soon. I don't know what you guys are doing over there.
Postal services in Australia, India, New Zealand, the UK, and parts of Europe say they will stop shipping parcels to the States before the end of a trade exemption known as de minimis, which since 2016 had allowed goods worth up to $800 to enter the U.S. duty-free. But per an executive order signed by President Trump last month, goods coming in from abroad less than $800 will be slapped with country-specific tariff rates starting Friday.
The vast majority of my customer base is in the US. I can't pass this on to my customers. So as of last night, I've had to close my store completely,
leaving small businesses and consumers concerned about shipping backlogs.
And with the couriers, we just don't know what's going to be happening.
DHL, one of the world's largest courier companies, will stop accepting parcels destined for the U.S. starting today, citing unresolved key questions about the process.
That just adds more uncertainty into an already very confusing picture around tariffs and how they're going to impact us here in the United States.
The change could cost consumers a staggering $13 billion overall. The cost breakdown, $80 per item for countries with a tariff rate of less than 16%. $160 per item for countries with rates between 16 and 25%, and $200 per item for countries with rates above 25%. Those small dollar costs amounting to big picture concerns for the economy, as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell signaled late last week that rate cuts could be on the horizon.
The shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance.
And by the way, even in just the last hour, we heard from two new companies, Swiss Post and Japan Post, saying they are also suspending packages. I want to point out, though, there are two things about this de minimis exemption that are worth kind of just reminding everyone of. First off, the reason why the White House is doing this is because they say they want to stop the flow of fentanyl into this country. They say a lot of that is coming in through these small packages, but there is still an exemption, Aaron, for packages that are worth under $100. So if you send a letter or a postcard, those will not be subject to the holdups here or subject to the tariffs even once they take effect on Friday.
All right. A lot of information there, useful information we really need to know. Yep. Brian Chung, thank you. Well, coming up, battle for control of Congress. The fight over redrawn congressional maps in Texas continues to spread to other states as Democrats vow to fight back against Republican redistricting. That's up next. We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning. We'll start with the latest on redistricting in Texas. Joining us now is NBC News politics reporter Megan Leibowitz. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, good morning. Yeah, let's begin with that redistricting fight, which entered a new chapter over the weekend. That's because the Texas State Senate passed that redrawn congressional district map, clearing the way for Governor Greg Abbott to sign it into law. We're not sure yet exactly when that's going to happen. The governor said it would be signed swiftly, and Democrats have said that they'd challenge it in court. Now, let's take a step back here. Republicans just have a thin majority in the House, so redistricting could ultimately impact which party controls that chamber after midterm elections. Next, let's head to a leadership shakeup at the Pentagon. Remember that intelligence report from a few months back that indicated that U.S. strikes on Iran set their nuclear program back by just a few months? Well, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which authored that report, has been fired. Now, at the time of that report, President Trump had claimed that the nuclear facilities were obliterated. Officials did not provide a reason for firing Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz. Finally, let's head to New York, where the mayoral election is coming up this fall. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said yesterday that he's planning another meeting in the next few days with Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Now, several Democrats, including Jeffries, haven't endorsed him yet. The two also met a few weeks ago in what Jeffries called a candid and constructive meeting. And that's a look at what is making news in politics this morning. Aaron?
All right, Megan, good to see you. Thanks. Well, Democrats across the country are vowing to fight back against the gerrymandering in Texas. This comes after the state's Senate approved its new congressional maps over the weekend, ending a 2-week-long saga that sparked a nationwide battle. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona breaks down how redistricting could impact voters.
Everything's bigger in Texas, including the political fights.
House Bill 4 is finally passed.
Republicans in the Lone Star State approving a controversial plan to redraw their congressional maps. Lawmakers not even trying to hide their motives.
The underlying goal of this plan is straightforward: improve Republican political performance.
Under the new maps, Texas Republicans could gain 5 seats in the House. They're hoping to pad their numbers in Congress, where they hold a razor-thin majority and risk losing control of the House completely in the 2026 midterms. The map makeover coming at the direct request of President Trump.
We are entitled to 5 more seats.
Who has his own personal stake in the battle. If Democrats win back the House, they'd have the power to investigate and impeach him. But the push has also sparked a wider redistricting battle nationwide.
Right now, with all due respect, we're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire.
Governor Gavin Newsom leading the charge in California, approving a bill that will let voters decide in November on a redrawn map that gives Democrats 5 extra seats, essentially canceling out gains by Republicans in Texas, as other states, both red and blue, look to redraw their own political maps.
This is a war. We are at war.
And while the battle over congressional districts is nothing new, experts warn it's getting worse.
This is a true arms race between the parties, and it has the potential to be the gerrymandering apocalypse.
Dave Wasserman is a political analyst for the Cook Political Report. He says blatantly partisan redistricting, also known as gerrymandering, is bad for the country and can disenfranchise voters.
In general, voters dislike the notion of politicians drawing their boundaries rather than having voters have the opportunity to choose their politicians.
Normally, new congressional districts are drawn up every 10 years after the U.S. Census is conducted in order to reflect population changes. But this time, Texas is doing it only 5 years after the last census. In modern times, the process has become politicized, with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle trying to use it to their advantage, pushing to redraw maps early based on politics, not population data. So why should Americans care? Political insiders say congressional districts that are heavily tilted to one party or the other only leads to division in Washington.
Safe seats in the House create gridlock because the only thing a congressman or congresswoman worries about is a primary. It is a disincentive to compromise. So this is bad for government.
They fired the first shot, Texas. We wouldn't be here had Texas not done what they just did.
As a political arms race takes shape across the country with no end in sight.
We are back now with a look at what's being called the little treat culture, or treatonomics. It's a trend where instead of making big ticket purchases like a home or a car, a lot of consumers are opting for little treats that are easier to afford. Financial experts say it's becoming a defining spending habit, with some people even going over budget to treat themselves. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans is here to explain why. Christine, good morning. Guilty as charged here.
Yep.
I've now owned more shoes than I ever have in my life. So help us understand, how are you defining treatonomics, and why is it becoming so popular?
It's different than an impulse purchase. Like, an impulse purchase is something that you just didn't think about it and you got it and you go home and it's just a small thing. This is a thoughtful way to buy something to feel better about your situation, to give you a little bit of joy and comfort. It's a small pick-me-up in uncertain times, and it builds on something called the lipstick effect. What is that? Right. That is when the economy is really terrible, lipstick sales soar. And it's because it's a small thing, maybe it's $10 or $18, and it makes you feel better, makes you look good. And so it builds on that. And we're seeing it here. Cantor, which is a consumer trends tracker, says 92% of people say they intend to treat themselves in the next year. And almost half think it's really important for their well-being to be able to buy something small, to give them a pick-me-up. So it's like a candle, it's candy, it's perfume. And some companies are even sort of marketing toward this way, to the little sweet treat pick-me-up. And on social media, you see all these people like talking about their little sweet treat purchase and how it makes them feel.
I mean, it sounds like a smart thing, but there are some people, as we said, who sort of go overboard with trying to sort of indulge in these little things. So the question becomes, is this a good or a bad thing financially?
It's a good thing until it's a bad thing, just like everything in the world, right? And so, look, if this is a way for you to feel better because you can't get into the housing market, or student loan payments have started again, right, for the first time in several years. So especially for young people, this might be something that you're spending on because you're not, you don't have as much money in your, disposable income, and you're not getting into the housing market. And we know that Bank of America surveyed consumers and found that the younger you are, the more likely you are to do this way more, like the Gen Z, way more than Gen X and baby boomers on this one. 57% of Gen Z said they do this weekly. And look at that, about a third of them said they buy things they don't need. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to buy things you don't need. That will set you back in your long-term goals.
So if you're somebody who wants to treat yourself, as they say, what's the way to do that responsibly?
So don't do the impulse thing. This is something that you plan for a little bit. Tomorrow, for example, the pumpkin spice latte comes back at Starbucks. Fine. You're going to roll that in, one of those a week maybe, or you're going to buy something once a week, or you're going to make sure it fits into your budget. I mean, this is part of your spending money, right? It shouldn't be extra from your spending money. And think of a treat as a treat. If you do it all the time, it's not a treat anymore, right? So keep that perspective. It's really important. And some of the experts told us, buy long-lasting items like home decor. That gives you the rush, the hormone rush, that makes you feel good, but then it lasts a long time.
You can look at it for a while.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Christine Romans.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you, too. Well, more money news now. Southwest Airlines updating its seat policy for some passengers. CNBC's Silvana Henao joining us now with that and other financial headlines. Hey, Silvana, good morning.
Aaron, good morning. Yes, so Southwest is changing another long-standing policy. So starting in January, the airline will require passengers who encroach upon the neighboring seat to buy an additional ticket, which may not be refunded. Now, previously, you could either pay the cost of an extra seat in advance and later get a refund, or show up at the airport and request an extra seat at no charge. So now the second seat will only be refundable if the flight takes off with at least one open seat and both are in the same fare class. Advocacy groups for overweight people calls the changes devastating since they raised costs. Keurig Dr. Pepper striking a deal today to buy the parent company of Peet's Coffee for $18 billion. And it's part of a bigger plan to spin off the company's coffee brands. So it's basically undoing Keurig's purchase of Dr. Pepper Snapple from 2018. Now, analysts say this deal could catch the eye of antitrust regulators, specifically in the at-home coffee markets, and especially with single-serve pods and some overlap in the U.S. and Europe. And Apple is planning 3 straight years of major redesigns to the iPhone, and it all starts next month with the iPhone Air, which will replace the iPhone 16 Plus. So it'll be thinner and lighter, but the battery life won't be as good, and there is only one rear camera. Now, the possible game changer, that one arrives next year with Apple's first foldable iPhone, which is set for release next fall. In 2027, Apple is planning a curved glass iPhone 20 for the smartphone's 20th anniversary.
Wow, that's first it's bigger, then it's smaller, then it's lighter, then it's heavier, then it's...
Yes, exactly, exactly.
All the things. All right, Silvana Henao, thank you.
Sure.
Well, there is a growing number of supplements on the market that promise to reverse a person's biological age. The potential results promise to slow down the aging process on a cellular level, but the price tags are steep. NBC News Now anchor Vicky Nguyen took 6 months to try some of these out herself and to see if they're worth it. Here's what happened.
Day after day for 6 months, I took a combination of supplements provided by Elysium Health, pills for my brain, my skin, my immune system, and my cellular health. Would this combo platter of pills pay off and turn back the hands of time for me? Before we get to that, let me remind you of how this all started. Last year, I took 3 different biological age tests. The makers say with saliva or blood, they can tell you the age of your body's cells. Dr. Allison Aiello studies aging at Columbia University. She says your biological age could be younger or older than your age on paper, depending on how well you eat, sleep, exercise, and manage stress.
We have chronological age, which is our birthday. That happens every year. But then we also have biological aging, which represents the cellular and molecular changes that are going on in our body over time.
The wellness industry now makes up an eye-popping $2 trillion global market, fueled in part by products focused on extending your life and health. I was 45 when I first took the test, but according to one result, my biological age was 42, 3 years younger than my real age. Score, another 45 years and 6 months, practically spot on. A third placed me at 49, 4 years older. I shared the results with Dr. Eric Verdin at the Buck Institute for Research on Aging, who told me to take them all with a grain of salt.
There was a study just published showing that if you measure your clock at different times of the day over 24 hours, it changes by 5 years.
Turns out some of the companies who make the biological age test also sell a range of supplements, claiming their ingredients can help you slow your aging. So I took 5 supplements from Elysium, the company whose age test put me at 42, a total of 9 pills a day. The ingredients included precursors to NAD, a compound found in the cells that diminishes with age. Dr. Leonard Garente says it could be the key to slowing your body's aging. After 7 months, I retested with Elysium's saliva test. All right, snapped it shut. The results, my bio age was 44, 2 years below my actual age, but my rate of aging had actually increased slightly from 0.95 to 0.98.
You're relatively young. If you're already young and healthy, it's hard to see the needle move in a short period of time.
So me taking these supplements for 6 months, you did not expect me to see a change?
I don't know. It depends. You may see it, you may not. To really get good data on something like this, you have to look at a large cohort of people to get meaningful data.
Dr. Aiello says more research is needed to tell if taking these supplements is worth the investment. The supplements cost $60 for a 1-month supply. What's your take on the research around these supplements?
There's been a few studies, and they suggest some protective effects for aging and other health-related conditions as people age, but we still need more information in terms of the benefits.
Garente says Elysium's data show supplements can help even healthy people with good habits. If you are someone who does want to optimize your biological age, but maybe you don't want to spend the money on supplements or you don't want to take a bunch of pills, what do you advise?
I would advise the tried and true practices that we know are really important for creating healthy longevity. Things like eating a healthy diet, sleeping, making sure that you're getting good physical activity in every day, and also reducing levels of stress.
And our thanks to Vicki Nguyen for that report. You heard some of it there. Before you pay for these pricey supplements, a few things to remember. All the researchers agreed that eating whole foods, moving your body, and getting quality sleep will all help improve your health. And a reminder, the FDA does not approve supplements, so you do want to do your homework before taking anything, and always talk to your doctor. We end this hour with an inspiring mother-son duo who prove that with some teamwork, determination, and a lot of love, anything is possible. NBC News anchor Hallie Jackson shows us how they turned their love for racing into charity.
Hey there, we've got an inspiring story about getting off the sidelines, going for gold, and the best team of all, family. The finish line, thrilling for any athlete. But this team is unlike any you've ever seen before.
Way to go, Mom! Way to go!
That's Texas mom Maddie Harrison and her son Keegan, representing Team USA as a push assist team in the World Transplant Games in Germany.
How did it go, Keegan?
Great. The Games celebrating the gift of organ donation. Keegan was born with a congenital heart condition and became a heart transplant recipient at just 6 days old. Since then, the Harrisons have made it their goal to promote disability awareness. Their method of choice? Racing as a family, with Maddie pushing and pulling Keegan in 5Ks and triathlons. We caught up with them right before their big adventure. How did you and Keegan become this dynamic duo?
I had been racing triathlons for many years, and Keegan loved watching and cheering on. We decided that there would be no more sidelines for him.
Before they left, Keegan's school giving him a send-off fit for a champion.
I was completely floored and so excited that everybody came out and just made sure that we felt so much love and support. It means more than we can say.
While winning may not have been the point. Is it about coming in first for you?
I hope not.
They ran, swam, and biked their way to gold anyway. With fun and family at the forefront. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like for you emotionally?
We become our best selves as we're going through this. I hope people see there are doors that are open no matter what your situation is. There is a way that we can make sure that you feel included, that you're allowed to participate, and that you are supported in whatever that you want to do.
Our thanks to Hallie Jackson for that report, and a very big congratulations to Maddie and Keegan. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.